Hello, everyone. Welcome to the BusinessOptix Thought Leadership Series. I'm Carrie Muller, Senior Vice President of BusinessOptix. Just a little commentary. This series was created to connect the market to thought leaders and industry experts as we all try to navigate the complexities we're trying to manage currently. And today's topic is around the importance of creating a digital twin to drive operational resiliency. And I'm very pleased to announce our guest speaker, Mark Harrimans, who is a Vice President at Gartner Research, who's going to share his research and views on the value of creating a digital twin and why it's so imperative given what we're going through today. Quickly, before I hand over to Mark, I just want to point out that if you have questions throughout, there's a panel to the right of your screen labeled questions, which we will monitor. So please feel free to ask at any time, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end where we can answer your questions along with any live questions that you might have at the end. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Mark.
Okay, thank you. So I hope everybody can hear me, and welcome and good morning, good afternoon. It's a pleasure it's my pleasure to really present on this topic on today's webinar. This will be in a nutshell. It's kind of bringing together what has happened in the last 10 years, let's say, and how does this reflect to operational resilience. Why today? Why is this really becoming very obvious today? And then I'm going into kind of the concept of the digital twin of an organization or your organization. Where is this coming from? And of course, not only the concept but also the practice, the practical side, pragmatic, and really see in how this work out. What is the business advantage of this, and where we think that this will become a very important kind of topic within, let's say, process management or any management, and you will hear from that later on in the presentation. So let's start with this presentation. So first of all, okay, why are we talking today about operational resilience? So operational resilience has been around for many years, and but what has happened and predominantly has happened, I would say in the wrong way, is that if you look at operational resilience, right, it has three big components. It is really about seeking, finding and documenting what you see, what is happening, the patterns. Then it's kind of bringing this together in a model so you can communicate around this. You can do the interpretation and analysis. You can see what are the different scenarios. And then finally, you have to act, right? You have to really do something, which is the adapt stage. Now, what many people have not really taken too much care of is the basics. You can really, what we have been doing for many years is really like, okay, start having a model and then predominantly automate, throw technology to it and act. But wait a minute, what have we been doing? We've been starting with modeling, but did we really know what was going on? Did we really understand what we were doing? So, and that's also obvious today, these days, with, in any crisis, and today, especially with COVID, right? You see processes breaking down. You see bots, right? Which is RPA, okay? And task automation dying in mass. Why? Because processes break down. Bots, for example, they are just task automation, which is, forgive me, a dumb script on a computer, right? And which is always repeating what's happening. Now, we have to work differently. You see logistic chains breaking down. You see kind of these bots sitting alone, don't know about the changes. So this is exactly what's going on. We have automated many things. We have done so many digitalization even without seeing but wait a minute, is this not a one-off solution which is rigid and which is not adaptable to what is changing every day? So it is really crucial to start from the right basics, to start from, let's say, where we were busy in creating operational excellence for years, to go to operational resilience. And that's in a nutshell what we see today, and what's really becoming very obvious, right? That we have to turn this around, and many times, and not one side or one of kind of effort, but kind of a continuous effort. This is kind of what we see. Okay, if we know this, what can we do about that? How can we really cope with that? In another way, do you know and understand what is going on? And this can be everywhere. And you see many examples over here: hospital environments, warehousing, retail, how people work together in many kind of different many kind of different processes. So let's go back to how we can tackle this. And now we're going into the kind of the concept of a digital twin of an organization. And then where can we see this in practice? Because, well, you can throw a word at it, whether it's digital twin or DTO or digital twin of an organization, but explain to me, what is this? What is this all about? So, and we all know, I think most of us know kind of digital twin. And by the way, digital twin is a design pattern. You have a real life thing, an object, and you create a kind of a digital representation of it. Why? Because that allows you to really kind of have something that you can manage much better, that you can sit around, you can turn around, and so on and so on. So this is a digital twin. Mostly we know that this is going on for things, for objects. But wait a minute, what if we really kind of not only take a thing and how this is actually working out, but we connect this and we look at a organization where you have people, processes, interactions, clients every day, and how this is all working together and connecting. So what if we could create a digital twin of an organization? Now I can start, really explaining a book or whatever in how you have all these concepts. But, well, luckily I had to prepare, for conferences, a video in really explaining, taking people with me in where do you go if you have a digital twin of a thing and go to a digital twin of an organization. So bear with me, I show you this 1 minute explication of what is a digital twin of an organization in 1 minute.
Digital twins continue to expand, using IoT data to constantly learn, update, and improve operations. But suppose we take the concept of digital twins even further, beyond physical objects, into a department or entire business unit, so that people, processes, information, and systems now share a dynamic digital connection that interacts, analyzes, and optimizes performance continuously. In other words, what if we create a digital twin of an organization? A real-time model that aligns your strategic objectives with internal operations, using a bidirectional performance dialogue to empower every individual, leverage every expertise, and shape the way an organization coordinates, collaborates, communicates, and performs. By visualizing each moving part of an organization, a digital twin of an organization lets us keep monitoring, adapting, and improving the way we deliver products, services, and value continuously.
And this is really, what I try to figure out in how can I really bring this concept alive. So now go to some of these constituents. How do we build? What is the constituents of the digital twin of an organization? Because, okay, we've seen kind of the concept coming alive through this kind of video representation, but what are the different kind of aspects? So let's go from a digital twin and apply these to the physical world and the world of an organization. Yes, let's make the organization a thing. And the main characteristics play out the same. You have a model. You have a model of the organization. That's one thing. You need data, because if you don't have data, how to know about the status, the context? What about really doing something, improvements on some parts of a model? And how does this all work together? What is the interconnectivity? Then the uniqueness, you know that each physical thing can have one digital twin. Your organization is unique. You have one twin describing this, right? A twin describes your organization. And of course, you have to monitor this. And this is really very important. This is the real-time aspect. You want to know today what's happening, not in a financial report after 1 month, what happened, what went wrong, are we dead, are we still alive? No, it's really monitoring every day what you need to know. And this is applying this to the physical world and so on. Then, of course, if you have these basics, you can do analytics, you can do kind of rules, predictions, algorithms, all of these kind of things that makes, for example, why is this happening? We have one customer, we have one market product combination, which we produce like in a certain way. But wait a minute, to one client segment, this has a positive net promoter score and is going up. And in another segment or another region, this is going down. And by the way, we have kind of our lean black belts have said that we have standardized this. So how does this all come about? What is the alignment? Can we do the analytics? And then you want to control this thing, right? You want to really do this from many and not one, well, any person, just a person, a manager, but you want to have this as the basics of a performance dialogue where people also can respond, where people can really give their kind of view on what's happening. And finally, simulation. And well, simulation, I always replace this to scenario planning. I do think that scenario planning is very essential these days. You should not really say, well, I think this is going on, so let's do this. No, there should be kind of a way in finding out what if we could really take out this activity or combine them or really introduce a kind of a digital channel over here. What is the impact? So that is all coming together, and these are then the capabilities of a digital twin of an organization. Now let's go to something that I always try to make this step as simple as possible to people that I want to explain this. So the constituents of a DTO, we have something which is more alike this, or alike, and think about the navigator. A navigator is also something which is kind of guiding you every day where you are, where you're going to, and what is in between, the roadmap. And this is very important, the roadmap in between. So, and this has 5 constituents: a destination, a goal, where do you want to go? What is the goal of our organization? You have the map, right? If you don't have a map, you don't know where you're going. You step outside and, well, should I go right, left? You don't know, right? Time, measurements. This is kind of the replacement of measurements. So measurements, you have to know every time, well, where are we in respect to the goal, the destination? How can we move? What is the situation? This is the 4th element, situational awareness, the real-time or near real-time connectedness. And then finally, the decisions. You need to make the decisions. It's not the navigator that tells you, that makes you drive to the right. Well, maybe in the future, but not today, right? Or that you want to go for well, a detour and see something else, and so on. So meanwhile, you're going for this objective, which is A, right? Maybe the objective can, during the roadmap, switch to position B or C. So you have to adapt. And this is all about creating the adaptive organization and moving alongside that. So if we look at and we translate this in these many constituents for what this means to your organization, well, this is kind of the same. You have the destination, you have goals, you have a purpose, an objective, right? Which is most of the time customer-centric, right? I think we all agree this is should be customer-centric. And then you have the map, performance and situation, which is in the middle, which is kind of helping you going from a destination to the act or to the activity. Remember what I told in the beginning? Well, we have a problem. Well, just throw technology at it, automate this, right? No, you have something in the middle, which really takes into the relevancy, and that is really able also to adapt, which is the kind of resilience. And this is also why I changed my picture that I have now for a couple of years into this. If you kind of create this map performance situation, you have the essential parts to really create, seek, model, and adapt, which is leading to operational resilience. So in there, this is all how it all comes together. Now let's go to one of each of these constituents in a very simple way that gives you some kind of indication how this is working out. If you look, for example, to the first component, I told you this is about the model, the mapping, which is most of the time a meta model, right? Which is the adaptable or guarantees the adaptability. Now, most of you that have been in operational excellence, they kind of recognize this as, well, look at SIPOC, right? Well, this is on an organizational level. And yes, if you look at most business models or business operating models, which are the operationalization of business models, for example, the Canvas model of Alex Osterwalder, you see that this is all coming back to 9, 10 constituents. And this is, first of all, I always tell people, and I start from the right, what is your customer expectation? How are you interacting with these customers, through which channels? And they are coming to you for product, services, and information, not just talk to you. No, they want product, services, and information to different channels, different interactions, and this is really should come up to their expectation. That's one part. Now, these product, services, and information need to be created or kind of delivered by operations. And don't get this wrong, it's not just one process. I've seen this so many times, a process being used to really say end to end. But wait a minute, the process works, it's not living in isolation. It's working with many other processes, interaction with clients, interactions with the outside world, the ecosystem, and so on. That's operations. Operations, and then looking at the bottom of the screen, this is supported by resources. And resources could be kind of capabilities, could be financial resources, application systems, and all these things. How can you really come up with kind of an improvement of an application? And then you connect this to the operation, where it's sitting, and then you can connect this to the product, service, market combination. So this is end-to-end. And the left-hand side is then, well, you can do this yourself, or you can have kind of other suppliers doing part of the process, or even a big part, such as BPO, business process outsourcing, doing many things about your or taking over some of your operations to deliver these product, services, and information to your clients. But this gives you the opportunity to bring this all together in one single point of truth model, right? And this is the business operation model. I always take this to the next step. Well, let's give an example. This is about mortgages. Mortgages in a bank. Well, you have different mortgages, operations. You have the onboarding, but wait a minute, you have onboarding not only as one process, but working together for different kind of mortgages, life mortgage, investment mortgage, through different channels, branches, call center, or well, kind of outlets, and for example, two different clients. And this is all coming together, and then you have some interactions and supply. So this is kind of, and I know this is still big overview, but the beauty is that it's all coming down or together in one big model. And this also gives you, and now going a little bit to the practical side, that you can start with one product market channel combination and build this, and then go to the next, and go to the next, and go to the next. So this is also giving this kind of adaptability. Every day you can start as if this was your first day. And I come back to that, where this is coming from. Now, second element is you want to measure things, right? You have, and this is also something which has happened many times in the past. You have many kind of key performance indicators, and key risk indicators, and so on. And then people try to combine them and connect them. But wait a minute, how do you connect, for example, customer excellence rate with service level agreement? How do you do that? You can only do this if you have the orchestration by a model. For example, you can see in the middle that in one operation, the blue one, the blue circle or blue bullet, which is service level agreement, is connected to this operation and also has an impact on customer excellence. So here it comes together. That means that not indicator to indicator, but you have used the model to really connect all of these indicators together. That's a really different way of doing this. And again, it's being kind of accomplished by delivering a model where you put on the performance. And by the way, this also kind of constrains the big data that you have today. If you look at BI initiatives, right? What are they doing? They are taking all the information, applying machine learning and all these new kind of things, and then say, well, we have a lot of data and we think we have kind of connected this to this to this, correlated, and all these kind of statistical, well, beautiful statistical techniques, but it takes a long time. And what happens is tomorrow the model is different. And the day after, it's again different. And who's going to tell you what is the right model? Yes, of course. You can have also machine learning and artificial intelligence to detect what is the right model. But again, this is taking a lot of time. So this is constraining by the model what you're searching for. I know now that this blue and this yellow one kind of connectors or kind of indicators are really important. Well, let's only go for that data because that's irrelevant. You know what the difference is? It's the difference between 1 year of a BI initiative and something like a couple of days trying to find the data where it comes together. That's the difference. Third and last part, you need situational awareness, continuous intelligence. If you have the model, you have the performance metrics, well, let's connect this to the systems we have through the event. And today we have a lot of events, well, moving around everywhere. And we can connect it to the model. So it's kind of, hey, if we know what we're searching for, let's connect to the real time data. And this is the final. So you remember these mortgages, like what I was telling you, suddenly it becomes alive. You can see that, for example, here, the accepting the mortgages for live mortgages through internal channels or digitalized channels for a certain customer audience is really where the problem first is. By tackling this solution, you will see then next, because it's keeping connected, that you go to the next one. Maybe it's then the underwriting of mortgages that is really kind of coloring red and so on. So it gives you kind of a real-time connector every day, right? Because you're not alone on the road. Remember the navigator? There are lots of obstacles, and every day this is changing. That's, by the way, a characteristic of a process, right? And even today, you see that many of these processes, well, by sometimes automating them, they become rigid. They become rigid. So this is the way in bringing all of these things together. Now, this is the concept, right? The concept of turning kind of the characteristics of a digital twin to an organization. And by the way, it's really, well, by people knowing already for years, the concept of operating models, business operating models, kind of the same, but we put kind of a name on it, right? Where it comes from, digital twins, which is kind of having all these characteristics and putting them in place onto an organization. And by the way, organization, remember this doesn't need to be an entire organization. You can start this on a business unit. You can start this on even a PMO, because a PMO also delivers, get this, delivers products and services to different clients within an organization through different programs, which and then the interactions or channels, and it has operations, right? PMBOK or whatever Prince do. So these are the operations, and you can do the same game for a PMO. You can even go for an IT department or for whatever. An organization is where people work together around one product, around one service that you deliver into a certain customer segment. You can start with that. So now let's turn to the DTO in practice. Well, first, the use cases. Well, you can use this, and I have written a note, I think a couple of years ago, which is kind of the 12 most powerful use cases, and which are indicated over here. Well, kind of categorized according to adoption and also the maturity, right? Well, if you look at risk management, mergers, acquisitions, yes, you can do that. If you can do this for one organization and an other organization, you can take parts of it and really construct this in a new organization, merger, right? Or you can do this in many things. I already spoke about business process outsourcing, and here you can see many kind of, but the most used use cases are for enterprise performance and cost. Today, cost minimalization is very important, right? You can really do this from a DTO perspective. Why? Because we have seen so much cost initiatives, right? Doing this for one product market combination, or going like, okay, 4%, boom, across the entire organization. But wait a minute, also on the very good products, not only, so we have no kind of disaggregation to really say, but wait a minute, we have a very good picture of how this is all working together. Let's do a little bit of cost like this over here and over here, because cost optimization is always a balanced exercise. If you take something over here, it has an impact on another kind of element within your entire business operating model. So this is what it gives. Very important, I would say, is also customer experience these days. And I'm just going through some of the case studies or use cases, sorry. So customer experience, what allows the DTO concept to do you, because remember the model itself, it connects clients to external side of the operation or the interactions that your organization has with the external world, with the internal organization. Get this example. You have sometimes people that are only looking internally and do operational excellence and so on, right? So I've seen companies that have the best process out there in the world. But wait a minute, if this is not connected to your clients, right? Because you have a channel which is blocking, or you have a combination of products which are delivered to a certain client segment, how does this work out? Nobody will know that you have the best process in the world, right? The most lean process or whatever. So you have to connect this to align this. And this is really also one of the beautiful characteristics of this DTO concept. If you have a client, right, and you can measure where it's going up and down, for example, in customer excellence, and you can create the visibility where this has a kind of connection, or this is aligned to a certain operation within your organization, you can do something about it. You can actually go to the leading indicators, start kind of optimizing some of the tasks within this operation, or combining or adding some digitalization, for example, that really delivers to customers that otherwise would have were asking for interactions with your organization, and that really were lost because you didn't respond fast enough, or you didn't respond in the right way. And this is really creating customer retention, customer growth in the end. I have a fantastic example where people really measure this kind of connection by looking at customer interaction requests from the outside world that were lost in the organization. To give you one indication, average, this is usually between 15 and 25%, which is, some people think this is huge. No, this is average. If you can reduce this by a couple of percentage, this means that there is a kind of conversion rate. You can really create value, revenue. So you can grow to really align customer interactions with internal operations. But maybe this is already too far, going too far, but that's what you can deliver if you put all these things together in a kind of the approach that we just mentioned to you, a digital twin of an organization. Now, one question that I get many times is okay, so should we build this together, or should we build this ourselves, or where can we buy this? And by the way, digital twin itself, I told you in the beginning, this is a design pattern, right? You have to do the implementation of it, and therefore you need kind of the technology. And is that technology supporting this DTO? Yes, there is today. By the way, every year we produce a market guide on technology which is supporting this digital twin of an organization. This is coming together alongside all these kind of constituents what I just mentioned. You have, for example, the enterprise business process analysis world. Well, this used to be the process mapping world, right? Which is now complemented with process mining and so on. I come back to that in a couple of minutes. But this is the EBPO, enterprise business process analysis. These have been the products out there that were predominantly busy with mapping what was going on, modeling what was going on, right? You need a model. They have the meta models. This is one angle. Second, you need the measurements. So this is about enterprise performance management. How do you get some methodologies, performance management coming together? So outputs, measurements, and so on. And then you have continuous intelligence, right? Which over the years was kind of, well, complex event processing, continuous intelligence. Well, Gartner is also, well, kind of a machine of producing acronyms and these kind of things. But continuous intelligence, let's call it like that. It's event-driven kind of connectivity to your data, right? Every day. So, and which is event-driven. Now, all of these things are sitting around, well, you have this process orientation, which has been around for many years. But today, processes is kind of the key concept, gluing all these things coming together. And if you go back to the model where you saw in the middle operations, yes, this is fundamental. How are business models capabilities operationalized? You can build capability models from here to Moscow, right? If you don't know how to operationalize this, how are you going to see how are you coming up to the capabilities, how you're using these capabilities. Ask one person with capability models, right? How much of the capability did we use today, and was this enough or not? You can't. You have to operationalize this. You have to really put this into the real world, how this is working out this moment itself. And this is the process world, the processes in the middle. The technology supporting the DTO, well, and my market guide gives some representative vendors. So according to what we are measuring, I think there must be some 70, 80 vendors around now coming up and trying to build this kind of, or materialize this concept. And if you look at the market guide, I have 20 representative vendors. Well, the organizers of today, for example, BusinessOptix, there are also one that have been in from the beginning on in this technology supporting a digital twin of an organization. Okay. So starting with it, and this is really crucial because many people say, yes, Mark, and that's a great concept and so on, and we get this and the navigator stuff and so on. But listen, where do we start tomorrow? What should we do? Where should we start? And I say, but you know, what is very important and what can deliver you very fast, and with fast, I mean something like 5-6 weeks kind of a result, you should start from the operational side. And from the operational side, because operations are, guess what, connected to your suppliers, right? You have suppliers, supply chain, and all these kind of things, which are connected to operations. Or you have resources, you have applications, you have an ERP system that you have to implement. Well, an ERP system, well, also in the past, we have implemented ERP systems according to, hey, this is best practice, this is the model, just go, boom, and to throw it to every organization, kind of thinking that every organization would be the same, right? The same plain vanilla, which is not the case. And I come back to that in an excellent case study after this slide. You can start over there, or you can start with clients. You can really look at client interactions and how these client, and some people recall this or call this client journey maps and so on. Yeah, you can do this. Or you can do the governance. How does this orchestrate? How does this come together? How can we put some governance around this for example, compliance reasons and so on? But all of them in the middle come together to operations. Now, we have been doing this operational stuff for maybe 30 years, and I've been one of one of the people also doing this for many years. Is like walking around, asking people what they are doing, do the kind of the interpretation, and then coming up with all these boxes and arrows and say, this is your process, bam. Wait a minute, is this my process? Well, think about that. If you ask 3 people doing the same job in an organization, you ask and you put them together, you ask the first one, what are you doing? He will explain you what they are doing in detail. Second person, he has to add. So he comes up with exceptions. Third person, has been working for 20 years in the company and says, yeah, but wait a minute, we're also doing like this and this. So again, and I, as the model, have to do the interpretation. Well, final thing, we have done some research together with 10 universities worldwide past 5 years, and we came to a figure of average accuracy of these models in a traditional way, which was 46% first year, because you have to maintain these processes. Second year, we went to 30%. So think about that. Automate now, throw in an IBPMS or whatever system, which is not due to the technology, it's fine technology, but if you apply this to 30% or 40% of the truth, what will happen? People, well, they'll accept it kind of piecemeal and so on, but in between steps, they create their own spreadsheets, and again, other things. They come up with shadow tasks, shadow process, and so on. But okay, this has been till like, well, the world became aware of process mining. And process mining, of course, I think many of you will know process mining. It's kind of data-driven, finding out on the traces that you leave everywhere behind, and not you, but also the systems, the applications, the devices even, right? And bringing them together and applying some algorithms, not AI, algorithms, right? There's there's a difference. And then coming up with, this is the process, like 60%, always like that. And these are the exceptions, 10%, which you should keep. Don't throw them away, because this makes your company, and 30%, which is kind of a lot of waste. You should start doing something about it. And by the way, you can reduce your working operating capital by many factors, like 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, delivering fantastic results. So this is what process mining is today. But wait a minute, process mining alone is a technique, it's a methodology, right? This is only really capturing, well, very good what is happening. But as I told you, processes, operations don't live in isolation. You should connect this to your products, services, and your clients. If you want to also introduce new activities, you don't have process kind of traces yet, right? So you had the you should need the capability to add yourself some activities, and then play a kind of a scenario around this, which is actually what a couple of products out there already give you. They consume process mining output, right? Then they put this in a larger context of the organization, and then they allow you also to do other things. And this is exactly, well, our guests over here, our hosts, they are really one of the products out there that is really kind of supporting these coming together of all these aspects. But you see, this is where you can start, where you can have fast kind of results and take it to the next step. And by the way, because you stay connected, it's not a one-off. You can see what the result is and go to the next step and the next step, right? Kind of perpetuum mobile, right? You can go around and go around and go around, okay? Which is also one of the the characteristics of these DTO, or digital twin of an organization. Okay, this is where you start. Let's go to an example of use, and I now come to two kind of from real world, right, examples. This is an example I always use. Why do I use this? Because, well, I rather prefer always to talk something that I've been involved in myself in practice, in practical life, right? Well, there is something else than Gartner alone and speaking and hearing and making presentations. Is also something like the actual stuff, right? So this is what I first did. Well, a big example where we, for example, in a large bank, commercial bank worldwide, brought all these things together and started with, for example, saving accounts. In 6 weeks, we brought all these things together in one kind of single kind of model, the same model you have seen in the beginning. But wait a minute, people don't work with the model, they work with dashboards, which are kind of pieces coming out of the same model. And as you can see, for example, this is about saving accounts. You can see the process component, so the process portal that focuses on the E2E processes. You see insight into the E2E process and clickable process activities where you need to pay your attention. You have the information on the right top side on process information. You have on the left-hand side all the important indicators and several dimensions, so you can go from channel to another channel to another channel and so on. You can have KPIs on end-to-end performance, that you know where this is all going to, and you have graphics linked to that. So this is the way how people work with it. Now let's go to another case, because well, since I started working on these, what I now call these digital twin of an organization, or we call digital twin of an organization, I think we must have always captured like almost 100 case studies. And this is also, well, one that we've chosen for today, because, well, this is just giving you not an example that it is not a one-off time solution. This is provided by Capgemini, right? Capgemini that used the technology of a DTO such as BusinessOptix to really create kind of I would say an ongoing effort. Let's explain you something. Well, you have the use case, right? And this is building on SAP SAP for HANA or S4 HANA. So, and as you know, I told you already that ERP implementation in the past, well, they had, well, in the case, for example, of Capgemini, they had a blue book, they had some procedures that were prescribing, and everybody had them. But this is really applying something which is standard to all organizations and then adapting a little bit, right? This had its advantages. It was fast, but also its disadvantages was kind of not fitting the organization. Now imagine if you would have something like which is adaptable, which you always get, which is adaptable to the organization, which you can use then to identify, evaluate, and prioritize opportunities and how you do some of the change, the migrations. So you find actually a digital twin, which is really kind of connected to your organization and serves as this resilience layer. It gives you these capabilities of always kind of remodeling, having new models, and so on. And if you connect it then, sorry, as they have been doing to, for example, the new mining techniques, right? If you look at the figure that this is over there, you see that they have something which is also process mining, getting to the kind of the modeling, getting to the kind of the simulations, the improvement, and all these things working together in a closed loop approach, right? Also getting the performance metrics, right? They have these meta of the data coming together with process mining, which actually I like the term a lot, business mining. So I think this is something which is this well, where process mining is going to, but this is how you can bring all these things together. And this gives you a lot of advantage, right? This gives you a lot of advantage. And what it shows also to me is that first, great solution for a client. It can be expanded into many areas of the client, but and this is what really is I think even more eye-catching is that there has been a framework around this. They have created a framework, which means that you can kind of scale this, repeat this for many other organizations, for many other kind of things. And then that reminded me to a great, and that's what I told you in the beginning, a great book that I read over the weekend, which is the Amazon Management System. And I recommend this to everybody, the Amazon Management System, where you see that they had a couple of principles, which was, first of all, they didn't want to create a kind of rigid organization, but we need to come up with an organization that considers every day as the first day. Imagine that every day is our first day. So we have to adapt to today. And they applied the entire organization to it, the management system and so on. And then we tried to do the same for inventions. They had many inventions. Well, you can do an invention once, but wait a minute, if you can make a framework and kind of have the underlying technology to really make this happen every day, go continuously doing inventions, you create a kind of an invention machine. And that's also what made me think about over the weekend. Well, exactly. If you create this kind of what Cap came up with a digital twin framework, you create a kind of a machine, an accelerator in overdoing this again. And all because you also, well, you need then this kind of underlying technology, which in this case is digital twin of an organization technology. And that's I think will come with a lot of perspectives. And this is what, well, and I think I'm perfectly in time because I try to get this into 45 minutes and then open up for some questions and answers. Well, yes, we are already doing 100 years of process mining, right? And you see all the things coming along. Well, the first cycle, 20 to 1950, even operations research and all these kind of things, the TQM, GIT, and so on. Then you had Worthwell BPR in the 90s, the 80s, 90s, Six Sigma Lean coming around. And then I think also that automation, since I think 2000, you had the BPM. I remember the first conference BPM in 2000. So, and then you had event-driven architectures. And finally, I think we are on the last, not the last, but the fifth cycle, which is kind of resilient or adaptive organizations. And you see, well, I don't like the name AI so much, but okay, well, we have a term around this AI and it's, let's say, advanced analytics, faster analytics, more kind of responding technology. And I think also DTO, and you see this on the bottom of the screen, I think this is part of it. You need a mechanism to guide you every day to see where you are, where you're evolving into, and how you can really go to the next step. And that is, I think, what is next. And so to finally say, well, these are some recommendations. So yes, DTO, I think, is has been for long a missing a component in to guide really what we sometimes say, well, you need to be a digital business, digitalize, bring automation in it. No, you have to really do this in a relevant way, doing this in a continuous way, in an adaptive way. That's one. And then I would say, if you want to start with this, for example, with a limit market offering process organization or part of it, and build from there. But always safeguard this in the model, into the overarching, in the guiding single point of the truth. And then finally, I think there are today emerging technologies that can support you in doing this, and that can prepare you for the next level of maturity in your organization, going to the adaptive organization or adaptive model-driven organization. And here I will kind of, well, stop my sending and ask you, well, whether there are questions, and try to answer most of, well, well, some of these questions. Okay, I open the floor.
Thank you, Mark. Everyone, I have unmuted you all, so if you have any questions, please feel free. I do have one that came in. It says, Mark, as part of the business, I now understand a DTO at a bit deeper of a perspective. How do you suggest a business pairs with IT in order to make sure it's an outcome-based thing versus a technology drive?
Oh yeah, then and that, well, this is essential, and this also reminds me in, well, I told you that I've not only kind of implemented this, because I've also well, was on the sales side in trying to get this out. So and and usually, well, you should ask yourself, who are the stakeholders of this? And yes, you have many people that have to work together. By the way, this is also a recommendation if you want to know how you approach this from an organizational perspective, and this has always been the case with process work, operational work. You should really kind of create a kind of what we called in the past a business process competence center approach. You have different roles and responsibilities that you have to take in place to really do this, and to really do this in a successful way. That means that it's not an IT party. Yeah, it's something that IT, of course, can support very well, because it's really about the data. You need the data. Where is the data? How do you really kind of make this happening? How do you implement this and all these kind of things? But it's also an operational thing. So you have also the operational people doing this. And by the way, because this is kind of pulling together, bringing together many things in an operational way, this also has many stakeholders. Usually the first suspects on this stake, or on who is interested in this, is the people that are responsible for bringing together operations, making the outcome, and yes, this should be outcome driven, that the outcome is really where these operations come together. I'll give you an example. Don't try to really, well, get this into one person who is responsible for one single process or operation in the organization. Because what will happen is that, well, they usually say, well, we know better than whoever, and we are doing very well. We always have a green flag. Yes, we are doing very well. No, because this green flag further on along in the organization, right downstream, can really be not available. So when it comes together with other processes in the organization or in a certain region through the different channels. So no, it's not. So you need to connect these two where it makes relevant. So in the past, it was mostly on where operational officers were doing, COOs were responsible. But today, this has changed a lot. Why? Because we see people being kind of transformation officers. Whether this is a big transformation or a small transformation in an organization, this is always about transformation, is about things coming together, about product services that have different kind of or deliverables that are really connecting or delivered by different interactions, operations in the organization, supported by different systems, and so on and so on. So this is where it comes together, and that's the complete different thing. If you look at some of the biggest, well, any case study that I have on this, it doesn't start with, well, this was really going, this process was kind of getting like from 3 days to 1 day. No, That's something inside. Why? What is the consequence? Why? What do we really get from this, right? It's different. It's really about, hey, why are the customers really staying with our retention rates, right? Why are they staying with us? And by the way, they have a portfolio of products and services. So if we do something about one service, we need to be careful because they also have other services. And how are they dependent upon each other, right? I remember in the bank that I showed you that we put up a new digital channel. And this was fantastic for the student population. But the elderly people, really, they didn't like it. And by the way, they had some products and portfolios in the bank which were much more worthwhile than for example, well, the 23% of student population that after acquiring a card will really retain or stay connected with the same bank, right? So you have to really connect all these things and balance these things. And this has to do with outcome-driven aspects, not only and how you work together. And by the way, this is not for one that people alone should be responsible for. No, it's really how people work together. That's something I learned also from the Amazon management system. It's not only about management saying you should do this, you should do that. No, it's not a one direction kind of performance management thing that you say, here it is, this is how you should work. No, it should be a two-direction kind of performance dialogue where people work together, where people really know where their contribution is and do suggestions. And you have these kind of things going around. And yes, there are roles and responsibilities for IT and roles and responsibilities for operational management and business management or the executive level, because they also have to play out. Because if you ask them what is your and that's where you should start. Try to do that. If you ask an executive, right, what do you want to achieve with your organization? Growth? Wait a minute, growth on what? On this product? In this region? And what about that product? So this is so kind of vague sometimes. So it's kind of connecting every of these aspects. So yes, it's kind of connection of IT, operations, and in a kind of competence center way, but supported with the right technology. And therefore, I say IT stays very important in driving these kind of initiatives. Okay.
Great, thank you. So we have another question that came in, just talking about the use of decision modeling and, you know, assuming it's an important component of the digital twin organization. So what would be your comment on the role that that has to play?
Yeah, decision modeling and well, that's going back to, well, I had an era or a time that I covered intelligent decision management and decision management system and so on. So decisions, you can apply them to anything, right? It's kind of another layer on top of this digital twin of an organization. This digital twin of an organization will show you where it's important to take action. Where are the interdependencies? How you can, for example, take an action on an operation which has a kind of an impact on a product, a service, a client, or where you kind of outsource something which has an impact on all these other aspects. That's what you will see. Now, to make decisions, right, and having decision models, how you do every day take decisions. Well, first question, decisions on what? Because decisions, right, can be taken on a product level. And this is where you see product people or people responsible for products and services and so on, one of these constituents of the operating model. Well, they take decisions every day on this. But then you have channel decisions, then you have client decisions, you have operational decisions, you have decisions about systems, right? So that's one thing. You have a layer on top of that on each of these aspects have kind of decisions. You can model that. And I think DMN is one of, well, I'm in favor of this and the decision modeling and notation, because for the first time we have something which is really kind of practical, right? Which BPMN and so on. Well, that was too technological and even CMMN, so case management notation. Does anybody use this? Really? So, but DMN, it's great, but don't try to do this on everything. And that's why a DTO can help again. You define the spots where it's impossible, where it's kind of relevant. You have decision models around that, and decision models also don't live in isolation. They should also be connected. Again, the DTO can provide you how this is working out by using the model to orchestrate the decisions that you're taking, which will fasten up the use of DMN. I've seen fantastic examples, I think last year in BPM Next, which is kind of a think tank around well, the next stage of BPM, about where it can help you to model the entire, well, some parts of the organization. Great, fantastic. It's very adaptable, but it is really taking a lot of time if you to only do this from that perspective. You need to really connect this to another way, to the organization. That's what I always tell to process people. Don't try to orchestrate, bring together processes on the same level. Take a step back, which is the organizational level, and it becomes very more kind of visual in how you connect this. It's the same, for example, with decisions. How do you bring decisions of all these areas bring together? Not on a decision level. No, take a step back, go to the organizational level, whether this is a product or this is the customer level, right? And then kind of connect the decisions that play around on these many different constituents. That's the way you should use DMN. But by the way, I think it was a great effort, this DMN initiative.
Great, thank you. So I'll ask, are there any more questions from the audience? All right, with that, Mark, thank you so much for the information and thank you for the time. We really appreciate it. This will conclude this webinar. If you have any further questions that you want to get to Mark, just go to BusinessOptix on LinkedIn and send us your questions and we will be sure to connect you with any answers.
Thank you, Carrie, from my part in being able to, well, to use this platform also to kind of spread the news around the digital twin of an organization. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thank you.